The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Greetings, boarders, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the snap and crackle of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG podcast network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy who doesn't get soggy no matter how much milk you pour on him. Josh, how you doing this evening?
You know, out of all the comparisons that you make of the two of us, I think comparing me to milk is probably the most accurate you've ever been.
Well, you know, I was going to make some joke about the Patriots, but then I was like, you know, that's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah,
I was going to make a joke
today.
I know I was going to make a joke about like handling you with kid gloves so I don't get an interference call called on me or something like that.
The only person with less air than the Patriots footballs or something like that.
Something like that. But
That's
I decided not to go that route.
I have hard skin from all of you Patriots haters now, so it's okay.
Hey man, it's the burden of backing a team that wins. That's the burden.
I will tell you how I am doing today. I found out today when I went to work that when I was working last Friday night, apparently like 5 to 7 minutes after I left my section, someone broke in to the building and was in my section. I literally walked 5 minutes earlier than him getting into my section. I found that out today. That a kid climbed the school, crawled into a dust collector vent, and came into my section and graffitied up some offices.
Okay,
and
so
5 minutes earlier, I would have been smack dab face to face with this person.
So I was like, oh man, were they like, was it cold out? They needed a place to sleep. So at first I was like really sad. And then they just wanted to graffiti everything.
The fourth floor. If you're going to break into a building, break into the first floor.
Well,
you know, climb 4 floors.
All right.
So yeah, that's how I'm doing.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you probably, dear listener, have heard that wonderful, wonderful laugh because while Josh and I, you know, we like doing the podcast together, on occasion, we like to bring someone else in. And while Snap and Crackle might make for a pretty solid breakfast experience, they're definitely improved with a little bit of pop. And the person bringing the pop to the show this week is none other than the host of the Delvin Cox Experience, Delvin Cox himself. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Go for it.
Right off the bat.
Snap, Crackle, Pop, Rice Krispies.
Yes.
How often did you guys just fill it up with sugar?
Oh, yeah, I always get the sugar packets at like wherever, like if it's at a house or a restaurant, I just pour them all over the top and then cover it with milk.
Yeah, because I don't never think I've eaten Rice Krispies without like a pound of sugar in it.
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing about me. When I was a kid, my parents did not allow me to add sugar to cereal. So to this day, Rice Krispies, Cheerios, all of those things, I eat them without adding any sugar to them.
Raisin Bran?
Nothing. I don't add sugar to cereal at all, ever.
Oh boy, you poor kid.
No, I think I love cereal. I think
Your
cereal's
parents clearly didn't like you.
I mean, I think that's a topic for a different podcast.
Probably the Delvin Cox Experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Delvin, we're really thrilled to have you on. And if by chance our listeners don't know who you are, why don't you give them a little rundown about yourself, who you are, all the wonderful things you do on the internet?
My name is Delvin Cox. I'm the host of the Delvin Cox Experience, a podcast in which each week I'm on a one-man mission to unite our culture through diversity. It's a fun podcast where I interview people every week and just find out what makes everybody special and just the diversity of people and different outlooks on life. And it's a really cool and fun podcast.
I definitely agree with that. It is an enjoyable experience. And I think the cool thing about your podcast is that every week, like, you know, we talk about games every week, but on your podcast, like, who knows what you're going to be talking about each week?
Yeah.
Yeah. I give you guys a little inside baseball. When I first started podcasting, I said, first thing I thought of, let me do a gaming podcast. Then I looked, PSVG, Married to the Games, For the Nerd. I'm like, you know what? Let me not do a gaming podcast. Everybody, all my friends are doing a gaming podcast, so I need to do something really different. I think that's what's cool about this podcast because it's different from everything that PSVG does. So it kind of has its own little niche. And it's a really cool thing that you guys are doing with this.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the show, go through a little bit of housekeeping here. As always, thanks so much for joining us this week. If you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at BoardwithVG on Twitter, or check out all the things Josh posts over on the Instagram, also BoardwithVG. You can find us over on Facebook at facebook.com/BoardwithVG. So we definitely love 5-star ratings over there. And as always, that long form communication can be sent to boardwithvg@gmail.com. As always, we love when folks use that hashtag BoardwithVG on all the social medias because there have been some really interesting things associated with that hashtag. So we really like to see the interesting things you guys are posting out there. Whatever podcast service you listen to us on, we really encourage you to give us a stellar rating, whether that's from the PSVG feed or our standalone feed. And as always, PSVG has launched a Patreon. So we're really thrilled with all the support there. If you're interested in maybe financially contributing to what we do, you can check out patreon.com/PSVG. But the most important thing is just that you listen. So I do want to give a brief shout out, though, to all those wonderful producers who have helped us this month, including Coach Hulk, Edwin Kahlo, Devin Tyus, Kevin Austin, Chris M, Joel Voss, Professor Switch himself, and Bonesaw. We definitely appreciate that contribution. Also, finally, we're going to be having a community gaming night in conjunction with the Xbox Empire podcast on Saturday, January 26th, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be playing some Halo 5 on the old Xbox One. So we'd love for you to come join us and play a little Halo. I meant to dust off my Halo skills the other night, but I ended up playing something else instead, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I did promise briefly that the Patreon winner of the drawing for Santorini would be announced on this episode, but I didn't get a list of all the patrons, so I wasn't able to do the drawing. But I promise very soon, in the next day or two, I will do that drawing and contact that person individually and then announce it next week. So trust me, I have an extra copy of Santorini that really wants to get sent to someone else's house. So enough of all the housekeeping stuff. Delvin, since you are our guest, we get to find out, because I don't know the answer to this question. Do you play tabletop games or board games? Like, what's your experience with that? And have you been playing anything?
My gaming history in terms of board games is I don't play as much now as I used to play, but I used to love games like, give you guys a fun story. When I was a kid, I used to play checkers with my grandmother. And she was amazing at checkers. And it's crazy to say that because people think of checkers as a simple game and stuff like that. But it's a very complex game if you learn it. It's simple, but it's different with the master. And she was so good at the game. So I would sit there with she's my great grandmother, every day and play checkers with her. And I did this for, I want to say, close to 10 years almost.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I was 10 when I started playing with her, and I was like 19, 20 when I started beating her consistently. like when I got that good as her in checkers. And shortly after that, like she passed away, but I will always have those memories of playing checkers with her. So I'll find that special. And when it comes to board games, other than checkers, of course, I play stuff like Monopoly, Life, and things like that. But I never got into the big nerdy type games that look really cool, but I literally had nobody to play with.
So really quick about checkers here. So you said, when you got to 1920, that's when you started beating your great grandmother. Like, did she not let you win when you were younger? Was it very much like, no, you have to earn this. I'm not going to let you ever win?
Yes. And she was very good. She was so good to the point, like I said, I could beat anybody else in checkers, but not her. So that's how good she was.
So did she give you tips or anything or point out what you were doing wrong? Or was she just like, no, I'm going to just beat him for as long as I can?
She was like, the best way to play checkers is to be patient. You have to watch the board and be patient. When you start rushing, you make mistakes, and that's how you lose.
Yeah, I wish I could not have to let my wife win sometimes. That would be nice. I'm kidding. She totally kills me every time.
No, I have to let my wife win because she'll hit me.
Yeah. My wife would just get mad at me and not talk to me. I think that I'd rather get hit.
Oh, jeez.
I have a Spanish wife. They like to throw things. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we will go very briefly through our board games that we have been playing so then we can jump into something we can all talk a little bit more about as a group. So, Josh, what have you been playing on your tabletop, sir?
Okay. So we logged another game of Gloomhaven in last night, which was exciting. What wasn't exciting was having to pick my cousin up at the airport at 2 a.m. in Boston last night. So that was fun. Just adds to my day. But we had another successful campaign. We actually beat a boss and furthered the storyline, which it was a tough fight. We ended up getting through it. As usual, they're always tough fights and we always scrape. We get by at the end. I did play Wingspan. I think I'll wait and talk a little bit about it once you've logged the game in too.
Yeah, I have learned it. I've not sat down and played it yet.
So I'll just give like an overview of the game, so Delvin can hear a little bit about it too. I mean, it's 1 to 5 players, which is good for people who like Delvin, who maybe doesn't have someone to play with all the time. But it really has to fit into your wheelhouse as far as the theme, because the theme of this game is. Do I say bird collecting? Because that's kind of what it is.
It's kind of what it is.
It's just a very beautiful game, and it features so many. The artwork is incredible. It features so many different like bird types, and they all have these different abilities. And what you're doing is, it's like card collecting, set collecting almost kind of game. Where you're going back and forth over 4 rounds, trying to get the most victory points to win. And as you're doing that, I thought it was really cool to learn about these birds. Every bird card has this like fun fact about a bird on it. It's totally unnecessary for the game. Like you don't need it to
Flavor text.
do anything in the game. But I actually learned some interesting thing about birds and what some birds do and like the habits of like blackbirds and bald eagles and how many eggs they can lay and how many eggs they do lay and all these weird things that I didn't think I'd be getting out of this game. But we'll talk about it more. One of the other things, the production quality is super high. Even when you get the instruction manual, it feels like art paper. It doesn't feel like instruction booklet paper. It's very textured. It's really nice. And it even comes with a setup of how to put everything back in the box, which is a problem for most board games. So that's great too.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How do you go about playing a board game by yourself?
So this is a game by a company called Stonemaier Games, and they're very good at including rules for what they call automata, which is basically like an AI character where it follows specific rules. So like if you're interacting with an NPC in a video game, like they're preset to do certain things. And that's the same for this rule book. It will say like, do this on this turn. And you're basically playing against a computer that you're controlling in the board game.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And some of their other games, like there's a game that Kyle's going to talk about next, and it also has something where you can add AI characters into your game, and you can actually add more than one. So you can play against other, we'll call them computer players, just to make that more understandable, I think. But yeah, they do a good job with that. And the game plays for between 40 to 70 minutes. So, I mean, you're sitting at a good hour for a game. And that's not too long, I don't think, for board games. I think it's definitely a game you could play a couple games of in a row. And if my wife hadn't just got over the flu, we probably would have played another game. And I look forward to playing it again. But we'll talk about that Wingspan maybe next week or the week after, once I get a couple more plays in and Kyle does too. Maybe we'll do a proper review. Because the game doesn't actually come out till March 8th for retail. So we'll have some time to talk about it before you can get your hands on it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Kyle, I'll throw it to you.
So really, very, very briefly, did your
yeah.
broken token insert assist with setup and teardown?
Oh, man. Yes. The broken token insert for Gloomhaven. So, Delvin, this game Gloomhaven I have, it's a 21-pound board game RPG.
Jesus.
It has like over 1,000 pieces in it. And we essentially had to just put like Ziploc baggies in it for the whole time that we played to like keep things separate. So I've had the game for like over a year. We've only logged maybe like 6 or 7 games. We play like once a month. And every time you have to set it up and break it down and put it back in. So finally I splurged on an $80 organizer for the game that you have to build out of, it's like a cedar wood pieces that you have to build.
Let me ask the question.
Yeah.
How much did the game cost?
When I got it, it was $120.
So altogether with the cabinet, it's $200.
Yeah, I'm in $200 on that thing.
That's awesome. Like,
It's
are
pretty
the
great.
pieces like very like detailed, and intricate?
This one isn't. So there are definitely some games that cost that much that come with super nice, high quality pieces. This game is more of a volume. Like it does have some nice miniatures, but the amount of stuff that comes in the game, it also includes over 99 like scenarios or levels, if you will. So there's a lot of game that comes in it.
So this is like the Witcher of board games.
Yeah, it's the Witcher of board games, and it was designed by one guy.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, it's insane. So we built that organizer I bought, and yeah, it saved us an easy 30 minutes of setup and then another easy 30 minutes of cleanup time.
That's awesome though.
Per game. So I'm already an hour quicker every game we play.
So you essentially get your money's worth out of it just for the time you save.
Yep. First game, I think I already got my money's worth.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
And I completely forgot about that, Kyle. So thank you.
I just know that you saw that you had played, so I wanted to get the feedback on how that $80 investment was working out, and it sounds like it's working out quite well.
Yeah, anyone who has Gloomhaven, I suggest buy that. It's worth it.
Did you pick up the one for Fireball Island?
No, I don't know if I'm ready to invest it for another $80.
Okay, just checking. So the big thing for me is I completed Charterstone, and I'm really excited and thrilled that game is over. And that probably sounds bad, but the thing that Charterstone does that I think is really cool and that is slightly different than some of the other legacy games that are out there is when the game is over, it then gives you additional instructions about how this is now its own game as it is. So you actually at the very end of the game get additional rules that you cover up that you were using during the game. It's like now it is just a board game for you to play, and here's how all the rules are different. But because you have been building these charters that are different, and everyone who plays the game builds different charters, everyone's game is different at the end, like about what's available to you, what strategies you can use, how you can do everything. And I think that's really awesome. And I really appreciate the fact that they did that. So overall, I mean, I know I've been talking about Charterstone for the last few weeks, 12 games total. I think it's easily worth I think $70 is the retail price. I think you can probably get it for quite a bit less often than that. But I think it's easily worth the money. It's a good time. I think the more people you can play it with, probably the more fun it's going to be. So it plays up to 5 or 6. I think up to 6 because there's 6 charters. But yeah, it's a really good time. I think it's also nice because the games only last about an hour. So even though you're playing 12 games total, it's only about 12 hours total to get through the entire campaign, which is pretty great. So I recommend it. I think it's an easy recommend. They also sell the recharge pack. My wife picked up the recharge pack for her game group that I got kicked out of. So the one thing I will say about that recharge pack, though, is it's a little bit finicky to put everything back in the box because you literally have to it's like component for component replacement. So you have to be like, okay, I'm not using these cards anymore, so I replace those with these. So you literally have to kind of go through and figure out what exactly you're replacing and what exactly you're not replacing. And there's no specific guide about get rid of all of this, add these things in. So you have these little boxes that are in there that you have to put new stickers on top of, and you have to replace all the cards, but all of like the wood components and things like that stay the same. So it's definitely less expensive, the recharge pack is, because the board is double-sided. So you can play it again just by flipping the board over. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. It's just a little finicky to get it all set up again and getting ready to go. Like I said, I think the recharge pack is like $30, which for everything that you get in there for $30 is a pretty good deal, because there's a lot of stuff in that recharge pack and there's a lot of things that you have to kind of deal with. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Charterstone. Obviously now I'll never be able to play it again. No, I shouldn't say that. I think this is one you could play again.
Play it again. You have to play your wife's game.
I know. It is one that you could play again though, because like strategy of like how you do things, you could definitely do different a second time. The only thing that's hard is that there's some things that like they have these things called guideposts in the game. So you know what the result of those guideposts are probably going to be. The thing that they do nice is like, if X happened, open these things. If Y happened, open these things. So if you didn't get X and you got Y, well, if X happens next time I play, I don't know what the results of X are if we get
right. So it's still new to you.
Yeah. So
Delvin, do you know like what a legacy game is overall? Like, do you know like what Kyle's describing?
I have no clue whatsoever.
So okay. Kyle's played this game, Charterstone. It's considered a legacy game. There's a few different styles, but what a legacy game means is as you play it, you're permanently marking the game, sometimes literally ripping up cards as you play. When you get Charterstone, it's essentially a blank board when you open the board up. And every game that Kyle plays with his wife or however many people play, you're adding things to the board every time you play. And then when your game is done, for Charterstone specifically, you now have your own board game that every time you play it afterwards, it's like you kind of created your own board game when you're done.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So yeah, and it's kind of becoming a thing. Risk Legacy was actually the first one. So Risk was the first real legacy game that existed, and it's kind of started to become the thing because then Pandemic had one, Charterstone's one, Seafall. Like it's really becoming a big trend in the board game world. Basically, kind of sending you along a campaign, where you're going through and doing your thing and having your own story. And I think that's the thing that makes it a little bit different than video games or even, RPGs or, tabletop art, like a game like Gloomhaven, in that how the game goes for me is going to be very, very different than how the game goes for Josh when he plays it. There's no set, like if X, then Y, you go to A, B, C, D. Like you might just, there are parts of the game that I don't even know that exist that other people were able to experience. So
yeah, it's like those mystery endings in the video games.
That's right.
That's cool. I have a question.
Absolutely.
Go back a little bit. You guys said Fireball Island.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the game from like 86. You're talking about, is it?
Well, it is, because there's this board game company called Restoration Games that what they do is they get the licenses to old board games and restore them and kind of bring them up to like a more modern sensibility and try to make them fit in with like the hobby board game and then reproduce them. So there is a new version of Fireball Island out now with the big, huge island, dropping the marbles and the whole shooting match that you can go get in the store again.
That is awesome. I used to play that game all the time when I was a kid with my brother and my dad. I used to spend hours playing that game because it was so fun. And it was just such a creative game to come out like in 86. They just had such like creative ways to make you get enthralled to this game. Like I felt like I was on the island playing this game because it was so like diverse and how the game was just made. It was such a cool game.
And you can play it again if you'd like now.
I'm going to tweet you a picture of the last time I played it so you can see how cool it is.
I might have to buy that. I might have to buy that game because that game was amazing when I was a kid. I remember playing it like all day because I remember having it and playing it, and then I remember after I finished playing with my family, I would sit there and play with the set by itself because it was like it reminded me so much of like Indiana Jones.
Absolutely, it is very cool, and I think the new version of it definitely. I think it improves upon the old version of the game. I think it definitely makes it a little more playable, a little better. Yeah, like. I think when we look back at Fireball Island, I think we look back upon it and think about how cool it was, but I don't think it was necessarily the most tactical board game anyone's ever designed. So the new version's got a little more tactics behind it, just a touch. There's still a lot of luck.
That sounds awesome.
So awesome. All right. Well, hey, that is it for the board games we have been playing. Delvin, sir, what video games have you been playing lately?
Well, funny you should mention that. I just finished yesterday. Well, I didn't finish it. I finished the main campaign of Red Dead 2.
Oh.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I got
Okay.
so excited. Then the epilogue came like, oh, God.
Because isn't there 2 epilogues?
Oh, thank you for telling me that. That's even worse.
I think there are. I could be wrong. I think there are.
love the game, but God, is it so long.
How many hours in are you right now?
I couldn't
Okay.
tell you. It's that long, like, and it's a slow build. Like the last chapter, I think it's chapter 6. It's incredible how it's paced, and I love every minute of that. But the problem with the game that I've had is the fact that a lot of stuff in the game is padding, like in terms of like how you can fast travel, but you really can't fast travel. Like if it had a fast travel system where you can just like go wherever you want to go. Once you visit this town, you can just go right back to it immediately. The game would be a lot shorter, but the fact that you have to like travel so long in the game, it takes like 10 minutes to get to a spot. Yeah. Then even if you want to fast travel somewhere, you have to travel to the fast travel location, then the fast travel to the spot. So I enjoyed the game a lot, but it's unnecessarily long.
All right. So we're, not too far into 2019, so I have to ask then, what were your favorite games of 2018?
God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead. Funny because I'm mentioning all the games I actually beat too. Yakuza 6. Oh, it was some great games that come out last year. Games that people didn't even like play. Like it was so many good games like Far Cry 5, Ni no Kuni 2 came out last year. It was awesome. Just so many great games. When you look back at 2018, it was probably one of the best years in gaming.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know it wasn't that much stuff to come out on Xbox that year, but still some good solid games on Xbox. Yeah. Every system had solid games on it and gave you a reason to want to play that system.
Absolutely.
So when you're playing Red Dead, because I played Red Dead for, 5 hours, and I haven't gotten back to it yet. I'll get back to it someday, maybe. But were you mainlining the story? Were you doing a lot of the side stuff? Were you doing the hunting, or were you just kind of following through with the story with the golden path and kind of trying to get things done?
I was doing a lot of the story, and I was doing a lot of the side quests. Like every time somebody would come up to me or I come across somebody, I usually help them out and things like that. I didn't do too much of the hunting because it's like I said, there's so much stuff to do in that game. And it gets to a point where you're playing so long, you're like, I just want to get to the end of this. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but especially when you go through those first 3 chapters where it's not much really happening in the story. And then once you pass that, it turns from like, I want to get past this and stuff to more like, I want to see what happens next in the story. Can we get this buffer stuff out of the way so I can get to more and more of the story? And I think one of the things that Red Dead does so well is the fact that the story's a slow burn.
Yes.
But 2 things about it. One, to get the best experience from the game, you have to play it a certain way. And I'm going to tell you straight up, you have to play it like a good guy. Because if you play it like a bad guy and you're like doing the horrible things, you're basically making yourself on the evil side of things. You're not going to get the same experience as you play it. The game literally wants you to play Arthur as a hero, as somebody who has a troubled past, is trying to redeem himself for that past and past mistakes. And it gets to the point in the game where, which I think is really cool, this is not a spoiler or nothing like that, but he's kind of like atoning for his sins. And it's kind of an amazing part of the game when you're seeing this character who's done so much wrong in his life and reflecting on that. It's like, you know what, I need to start doing good. And you're seeing him make that change and doing good and trying to make not only his life better, but everybody else's life better and atoning for his sins. It's a really cool story, but you have to get through it because, like I said, it's a slow burn.
Gotcha. Anything else you've been playing other than Red Dead?
I'm trying to think. It's been a couple other things I've been playing. Red Dead mainly. I've been playing the Switch a lot, but even when I play the Switch, I play a lot of play Smash and things like that. That's the thing I like about the Switch is that a lot of those games you can just pick up, play for 5-10 minutes and just put right back down and pick it up later.
Yep. That's
You don't
the
have
Switch.
to. You don't have to commit too much time to it. So like when I'm like at a place like where I have to go to a doctor's office or something like that, or just chilling, and I can just pop on the Switch game and play for 5, 10, 15 minutes and get on with my day. But the Switch is an amazing console.
It really is. I really relate to the play it for 10 minutes part, because for me, as I play it, I play Smash Brothers for 10 minutes until a new challenger or a new foe approaches, and then I lose, and then I put down my Switch for the rest of the day.
Oh, I can tell you what I've been playing for Switch. I've been playing Travis Strikes Again. No more heroes.
Nice.
I know Donnie's in love with that game. What are your thoughts on it?
It's fun. At first, I didn't like how they changed the perspective of the game because it's top down now, but it's still No More Heroes. It's still fun. It's still great, and I love it. I love the fact that it's on Switch because I think Switch needs more games like that, like No More Heroes, South Park, and stuff like that to drive in that older audience, because there's only so much Mario and stuff like that you can play.
Well, I know some people who could play that till the day they died.
Awesome. All right, Josh, sir, what have you been playing on your television?
So I'll start with Smash Brothers because I finally unlocked the entire roster. So I think I'm done with the game. I don't play it anymore. Is that?
I think that's the way that works. Yeah.
I gotta wait till the DLC comes out so I can unlock 6 more Persona characters that I don't know who they are in a Piranha Plant. I only do it because it's hip to hate on Nintendo. I really don't hate Nintendo.
Well, clearly with the MPD sales stuff that was released, not many people hate Nintendo.
No, and they're killing it, huh?
They're killing it.
They're killing it. Although any chart that says that Xbox outsold PlayStation, I can't trust.
So did it say that? I didn't even look.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know about that chart. I did jump into Halo 5 to prepare for our game night, and it is confirmed. I am still terrible at Halo 5. Probably because I didn't put as much time into it as the other Halos. When all the other Halos used to come out, it was an event. Like we'd have 2 TVs in the house, we'd have 2 consoles. I didn't have a kid or a wife, and we would just sit down for a whole weekend and play 4-player co-op Legendary and beat the campaigns. I can't do that anymore. So I didn't spend nearly as much time with Halo 5 as I would have liked. And like the control scheme is all over the place compared to any other shooter. Like jumping back into Halo, I'm throwing grenades instead of like trying to melee somebody, zooming in instead of shooting. I'm like, what is happening?
Delvin, are you a Halo player?
I love 5. I played the heck out of 5. I played 1. I played 2. I want to say I'm a Halo player, but I love playing the story modes.
Yes, me too.
So I would literally buy the Halo games for the story mode. I wouldn't call myself an Xbox guy per se. I play all the systems. But Halo is one of those games that I think can just pull you in with the story with Master Chief and Cortana. And people gave 5 flack and stuff, but I enjoyed it. I liked the story. I liked the fact that it was a different perspective and things like that. And I think it's a really cool game.
People just get mad they don't get to play as Master Chief all the time. That's
I like
what happened with Halo 3.
I like Locke.
Yeah, I think it's a good story from what I've played. I agree with you. I don't understand the hate for Halo 5. But there's still a huge multiplayer group for Halo 5 out there, which is great.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying though is I better play some Halo 5 before Saturday.
I mean, no, you should be as bad as me, so don't play it.
Here's a very brief aside. I'm sorry to take your time. When I played a ton of Halo 3, like Halo 3 was the one that I played a lot of multiplayer in. I used to play like duos and all that good stuff. And like the one thing I remember, like the one guy I played duos with all the time, because like when I started, like Halo 3 was my first Halo. I didn't play 1 or 2. And he, I'm using the AR and he's like, no, you have to use the BR. And I'm like, I suck with it. He's like, you will, but you have to practice. You have to practice. You have to practice. I'm like, okay. So I finally, got to the point where I was good at the BR and all those other things. And the like one tip I always remember, and I have no idea if it was real, but I do it all the time. And I do it in like every other game that I can. That's like a multiplayer shooter from it. is that if you were getting sniped at, is you were supposed to look down at the ground when you ran, because you're apparently his head animation for Master Chief like made his head box smaller. I have no idea if that's true, but that's what they always told me to do. So like every multiplayer shooter now, like if I'm getting shot at from like a distance, like I look down and I run. Like
I keep hitting his back. I can't hit his head. What's happening?
Like it's just like ingrained from my days of playing Halo 3. Like I said, no clue if that's actually true, but that's what I was told to do, so I did it. And now every multiplayer shooter I play, that is what I do when I'm getting shot at.
I would run into so many walls. And then the last game I played was a game I honestly, it's not even a game. I did not expect to like this. I thought it was going to be another boring port, but I downloaded and played that Resident Evil 2 demo, and man, was I impressed with what they did with that game. They really, I think last week, Kyle, you told me it's like Resident Evil 4. It really felt like I was playing Resident Evil 4. It was great what I played. I really enjoyed my time with the demo.
So are you going to play the full release?
It's just coming out. It's around so many things. Like it's out now, right? Or is it on Friday?
Friday.
So like I'm jumping into the Anthem beta on Friday, and then that will decide what I want to do about Anthem. And then I guess I could still get it. It gives us about a month before Anthem to play. So maybe is it 40 or is it 60?
It's 60.
It's 60.
But the thing about it is, the Resident Evil game isn't that long, if I'm correct. If it's following the same timetable as the original Resident Evil 2, I would probably say 14, 15-hour campaign, maybe.
Yeah, that's
4 campaigns. That's
probably if you look for everything, too. You could probably get it in 10, I bet.
Yeah, because they're not long games.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we play too many long games.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah, I can't complain. You just finished Red Dead. I tried to play Red Dead online, and I was like, a story that I have to play to get to the online mode?
Yeah, I saw that. I said, nope, not doing that.
What is happening? I just want to play shootouts. Video game front, it's been late for me, so just those. I dabbled in a couple of the Game Pass games, but nothing long enough to talk about. That's it for me. Kyle, hit us up with some video games.
So, side story really briefly, the other night So number one, I think I've probably talked about how I have a scuff controller, and that's what I use on PS4. Dude, I broke the back paddle again.
Oh no. Stop playing so hardcore, Kyle.
This is the 4th paddle I have gone through on this controller. And granted, I've had it for 3 years at this point. But really, like more than a paddle a year, and it's only ever the left one, the left paddle, which is like the one I have jump map to. The right one I've never broken ever. This is the 3rd. So I ordered 3 more.
Oh boy!
Because I'm like, I don't know, because they don't make this model of the controller anymore. So I was like, oh boy, how long until they don't have these paddles available for me to replace? So then I was dumb, and we'll see if I keep it or not. But I went and I pre-ordered the Astro A40 controller that's coming out for PlayStation.
Oh.
Yeah, so I pre-ordered one of those. So we'll see if I keep it or not, because I'm just so frustrated with this dumb controller, which I say dumb. I really enjoy it. Obviously, I use it a ton, but really frustrating. And I wish PlayStation would get on board and make an in-house Pro controller like Xbox did that's like really good. Xbox Pro controller, Elite controller is amazing. It's so good. Anyway, sorry, that was my brief rant. But anyway, I was playing Overwatch and I did that. So then I was like, well, I was playing Overwatch on PS4 and I busted my controller. So then I was like, well, I'll jump over and I will play Overwatch on Xbox. So I was playing Overwatch on Xbox, and I have 500 hours in the game on PS4. And I'm like level 12 or something on Xbox. So needless to say, I was getting a bit frustrated with how games were going. But then I was trying to remember when I first started playing, I had no idea how to do anything either. So it's fine. And then eventually I looked into looking for groups part. And there was, in looking for groups on Overwatch, you can assign roles. And there was this group who had 6 supports. So they wanted everyone to play support. And the group already had 5 in it. And I typically play support. So I was like, this seems like fun. Let's do it. So I jumped in. 5 other people and me. We're all playing the support classes. Like literally everything else is locked out. So the only thing we can play is the 6 supports. Now, granted, we were only playing in quick play. We went, I think, 7-1
with just supports.
Just supports. We went 7 wins, 1 loss.
You're playing against infants.
Well, here's the
How
thing.
did you do that?
Well, here's the thing. Like like I said, I have 500 hours on PlayStation, and I'm like level 12. First, like I have probably 5 hours, 6 hours on Xbox. One of the guys said, I don't know if it was true or not, but one of the guys like, oh yeah, I play on PC, and I play at master's level on PC. And I was like, I mean, you're good. I don't know if your master's good, but that's fine, whatever. But like this was like just a separate account that they have. So it probably wasn't a lot of fun for the other people, I would imagine, and probably pretty frustrating when when you have a whole bunch of supports like coming to the point and just being like, we're going to win. This is going to be great. So it was a lot of fun, though. I've done that with my Overwatch group like on PlayStation before. And we've done okay. Like we've done pretty well, but we haven't done quite that well. So we did that for a while. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to play some Black Ops 4. So I jumped into the multiplayer there. And I don't know what was going on, man. I wrecked. I was just destroying people. So then I said, well, I probably should never play Black Ops 4 again because I just had an amazing night of playing that. And then finally, the big things that I've been playing, though, I am probably 15 hours deep now into Dragon Quest 11.
Nice.
And I, big fan of RPGs back in the day, played a lot of JRPGs when I was younger. And I've really struggled in recent years to get into any JRPGs. Just, I don't know if it's a time commitment or what it is or a pace thing. But something with Dragon Quest 11 is just hitting all the right notes for me. I tried to play Octopath Traveler earlier this year. Like I've really tried to like get a JRPG to stick, and none of them have until now. And I think about this game constantly. It's like the only game I want to play right now is Dragon Quest 11. So really enjoying my time with that. If you're looking for a very old school JRPG, and old school in all of the good and bad ways, I would definitely recommend it. It's beautiful. I'm playing it on PS4. I know it's coming to Switch theoretically sometime this year, but I'm really enjoying my time with it. I think it's going to be a good fit for the Switch if you don't want to spend that much time sitting in front of your big TV just hitting X over and over again. They do some nice things so that you can like set your the characters in your party to just be like, hey, you're just always going to do this thing, so that you don't have to control them all the time and all that good stuff. So they've added some of the more modern things you're seeing in JRPGs these days. But yeah, overall, really enjoying my time with that. And then finally, the game that I'm kind of don't want to admit that I'm playing, but I'm really, really sucked in deep on. Have either of you heard of Legend of Soulguard?
I don't know what this is.
Is that game that they say is like the worst game ever made or something like that?
Man, if it's the worst game ever made, the worst game ever made is pretty good. It's a mobile game.
It's a mobile game.
It's a mobile game. Legend of Soulguard. It is a match 3 tower defense game kind of, and you're going through the different realms.
I never heard
right.
that game.
Like I shouldn't, there's nothing about this game that I should enjoy, right? But I heard a couple people talk about it, and I was like, well, they really are liking it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a whirl. And you're basically going through the different realms of it actually in some ways this kind of ties in a lot with like God of War, as far as it's like going into that mythology.
I
that
played
God
this
of War.
game.
You have played? Have you played it?
Yeah.
So it's like a match 3 tower defense where you're basically like you're fighting against an opponent, a map, whatever you want to look at it, and you like have different fighters and different units, and like when you match them, like if you match them horizontally, they make like defenses. If you match them vertically, they become attackers. If you match them like in a square, they become like the big version of that thing, and it does like more damage and things like that. So it's really interesting. And it is ripe with all of the free to play. Buy this thing, buy this thing, buy this thing. Pay for money for energy. Pay for money for this thing.
That looks a little cool game.
But man, I am loving it. Like I bought New Super Mario Brothers U on the Switch with the intent of playing it for this week. But every time I have time to play my Switch, I've just been playing Legends of Soulguard.
Oh no.
Yeah. I am so sucked in. I haven't spent any money. I spent $0.
That's good.
But my goodness, I am really, really enjoying Legends of Soulguard. I would recommend at least check it out. It's a little confusing at first, and there's a lot of stuff they throw at you right away. But kind of once you get into it, it's a good time. Yeah, it's kind of every once in a while I find these mobile games that just absolutely suck me in. I am in Jotunheim right now. I'm on in the second realm. So I'm on level 64.
Wow. Well, I can't be a hypocrite. I play Marvel Strike Force so much that it would be wrong for me to criticize you for playing a mobile game.
Yeah. But anyway, those are the video games that I've been playing. Delvin, I just have to ask, do you play mobile games at all?
Once in a while, I try not to get into them because I know they are very addictive and like Marvel Strike Force. That's something I probably would play a lot, or the Walking Dead game. I played a little bit of, but I know if I get into them, it's going to consume my life, and I already have enough stuff to do.
I hear you. All right. Well, hey, you know what? We are fortunate enough to have Delvin on the show with us this week. And if you're not familiar with the Delvin Cox Experience, first off, you should be. You should really listen to his show because he has some absolutely fascinating guests on, in addition to himself being on it. But what he does is he starts his show off with the 5 for 5. 5 questions with 5 answers to get the ball rolling. So I figured, and after talking to Josh, we thought it'd be appropriate to turn the tables, Delvin, and we're going to do 5 for 5 with you. How does that sound?
Sounds awesome. I'm ready.
All right. So, Josh, do you want to go take your first question, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I mean, I apologize if you have asked someone this question before, because you have so many episodes. It would be impossible for me to back research that. But I'm going to start with a light question before we drop into maybe a serious question or two.
Okay.
So you have your own late night talk show. You get to do the casting. Who is your first guest and why? And what do you ask them?
Okay. The parameters for this first guest. Anybody living or dead?
Yeah, let's say you're the new Jimmy Fallon. You're the new Tonight Show host, and you're like the Delvin Cox Experience show. You get to have someone on. I mean, if you want to summon dead people, that's fine with me. You go ahead and do that. Okay. No parameters.
If they're dead, the first guest I have on is Michael Jackson.
Okay. And what do you ask him?
It's a couple of questions I would want to ask. I would want to ask him, what was it like making like Thriller or Off the Wall, and did he expect it to be as big as it is today? Because like Thriller is one of those songs, the album itself is one of those songs that 20 years from now people are still going to be playing.
Yeah, they still are playing it now, yeah.
Yeah, so it's amazing to make something that's going to live on for the rest of not only my life, but probably my kids' life, and that legacy will never die. And it's has a lot of pressure to just have that in your wheelhouse where you make an album that's basically a classic, then you make another album that people consider a classic, then people still expect you to consistently do that. And then when it doesn't happen, like, oh, it's over.
Right.
I just find that fascinating how that works out with artists in general.
Yeah,
all right.
It must be insane.
So this is still question 1, because this is gonna be 1.5 because I want to know the answer to this. Who, if you had to keep it to someone living, who would you pick?
Barack Obama.
Nice.
And what would you ask him?
I would ask him, what was it like being the first African-American president and having to deal with everything you dealt with because of that? In terms of like, when he became president, people came out of pocket. They were saying stuff that they would not say about any other president. They were getting racist. They were getting offensive. And he just kind of had to sit there and bear it. He wasn't really sitting there, like, for example, not to bash our current president, whoever you may say or not. There's not too many things you're going to say about President Trump, and he's not going to clap back at you.
Right.
Barack kind of carried himself with grace, even when they were saying not only awful things about him, but awful things about his wife. And that has to be hard.
Absolutely. I think this is the reason why, I mean, I can't imagine somebody being like, I want to be president.
Worst job in the world. I would never want to do it.
Oh, man.
No way in heck.
All right. So those are 2 great answers to question number 1. I'll ask a little lighter question still, I think. What is the best movie that you have seen the fewest number of times?
Oh,
this is a really good question, because usually movies I like, I watch a lot. Okay. I got an answer.
Excellent.
They Live with Rowdy Piper.
nice.
Wow. Okay. Why do you pick that movie?
Because it's a very underrated movie in terms of like pop culture. Like people take quotes from that movie all the time. It's unexpectedly very good. It is one of John Carpenter's best and most slept on movies. But I can't remember myself seeing it that much. Like I didn't see it in theaters when it came out. I remember watching it on TV. Like I think it was down here was Channel 33. It was UPN. They used to show it a lot. And I didn't realize the line "I came to chew bubblegum and kick A," what he really said, because I used to see the TV version of it. So he didn't say that line. He used to say like, "I came here to chew bubblegum and kick butt, and I'm all out of bubblegum." Until I didn't notice what he said till I actually bought the DVD. I'm like, oh, there we go. That makes sense. But yeah, that's They Live's an excellent movie.
I haven't even thought about that movie in so long.
Yeah.
You should watch it again. It's a really good movie.
I should. I mean, I saw it, but I saw it like, I probably haven't seen that movie for 20 years.
Yeah,
man.
It's really good. It's a very slept on movie. Roddy Piper was actually a pretty good actor.
Wow. All right. Josh, throwing it back to you, sir.
I just think Roddy Piper, and I think of that Frogtown movie that he was the star of, which was one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, so you can tell by my questions, my branding in life is pop culture. So
Nothing wrong with that.
you get to pick. You are going to become a member of a fictional family. What family do you decide to join and why?
I don't know the name of the Stroders from Silver Spoons.
The Schroders? Nice.
That big cool house.
That's a great answer.
With the train that goes through the whole house, and he had the arcade cabinets.
Yeah.
Single dad. That house looks like it'll be pretty cool to grow up in. He's rich. I think he's a millionaire or something like that, and he loves toys and games. Yeah, that would be awesome.
If we aren't the same exact age, I would be shocked because we must have been living in the same world.
Wow. Another answer. I was not expecting that one at all. Okay. I haven't thought about Silver Spoons in forever.
I love Silver Spoons.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So we're going to get a little deeper on this next question then.
Okay.
What's the best advice you ever received that you did not take?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. That I didn't take.
Yep.
See, usually when I get good advice, I take it. That's the thing about it. I can't think of any that I didn't take. I can tell you something that I did, advice somebody gave me that I did do that turned out completely wrong.
That's how we can go that direction then if you'd like.
Okay. Because this is what comes off my head. And this was, when I was younger, I had a really good GPA. I think it was 4.0, something like that. And I always wanted to go to Michigan for college, the University of Michigan or UCLA. I got accepted into both schools. My family was like, nah, you should probably stay home. You should go to one of the local colleges because it's going to be cheaper. Even though I had full scholarships for both, and also we're going to need you here. I decided to stay home, and I regret that decision till this day because when you're staying home, you kind of have that to lean on as opposed to going out and experience life in college and knowing like it's either sink or swim in this type of environment. And not only that, the college I went to, while it was good, I felt like I didn't get the full college experience from it.
Interesting. I find this fascinating because like that would be my exact same answer to this question if I went to say if I went your direction with it as well. I didn't go away to school and I totally should have.
Yeah, I recommend any younger people who listen to this podcast, if you get a chance to go to school away from home, take the opportunity.
Yes, do that.
All right, Josh, back to you for number 5.
All right, I'm gonna keep it light. I did have a serious question, but you kind of asked it in yours, so I'm not gonna ask it. So here's my question, and be honest. What is the last thing that you listened to that you'd be embarrassed to tell people about?
What song?
Music wise.
Oh, I can pull up stuff right now. I don't think there's nothing I'd be embarrassed to tell people I listen to, but let me pull up something right now because I'm always Shazamming songs all the time because it's a song that I wouldn't know and I'd hear like, oh, that's a pretty cool song. The last song I Shazammed was The Cars, You Might Think.
Okay, that's nothing to be embarrassed about.
No.
I don't think. That's a good one.
But people look at you crazy when you're a black guy. You're listening to The Cars and stuff like that, Elton John and stuff like that. But yeah, I listen to all type of music.
I feel that because I tell people I listen to Childish Gambino and I get I get cross-eyed looks.
So, all right, this is going to be an extraneous question just because I think we need an outsider's perspective on this from our, very insular PSVG family where we have this discussion often.
Okay.
And this is kind of like you're gonna draw a line about who you can be friends with in PSVG and who you can't, Delvin, just so you know.
Are you going rogue and doing a 6 for 6?
I'm going rogue.
Oh no.
And I promise listeners we'll get back to games here in a moment. Does pineapple belong on pizza, Delvin?
Heck no, it doesn't.
All right.
That is awful.
Let's wrap the show up. We got nothing else we need.
Yeah, of course.
Just so you know, Delvin, that is the correct answer. Nice work, sir. All right.
That is not the correct answer.
Oh my God. Don't put that crap on pizza.
All right. So, hey, I know Josh and Delvin talked a little bit about potential things that we wanted to talk about regards to games. And after some soul searching and some discussion, it sounds like, the importance of games in our lives has changed from the times we were kids till now and all of that. So we just want to have a, little round robin discussion here about the importance games has had in our lives when we were kids compared to now, kind of why that change has happened or hasn't happened. So, Delvin, as our guest, what's your kind of your history with games and the meaning to those in your life and kind of how you've gotten into them?
Well, let's start off with board games.
Sounds great.
Because this is a board game podcast, so I should probably say something about board games. Growing up, when I was younger, I have a brother and a sister, so video games were expensive. Just call a spade a spade. Like when I was growing up, cartridges for the NES were $100 in some cases. So one of the things that we used to always get was board games. And growing up in the inner city, my mom didn't have much money, things like that. Board games help pass the time and make you feel like you wasn't poor or broke. And I think I can straight up say I grew up in poverty. My family didn't have that much money and things like that when I was growing up. It's different, a lot different now, but my mom was a single mom. She did what she could for us. And when you're sitting there playing games like Monopoly, I remember I had an Inspector Gadget board game I used to always play with me and my brother and my little sister. And when you have those type of things to spend time with your brothers and sisters playing games, you don't think about all the bad things that's going on in your life and things that you may not have, in terms of things like people take for granted, like food every day and things like that. Not saying that we went hungry all the time, but your mother's out there struggling, and as a kid, there's things you want. Like, for example, when I was a kid, I always wanted Optimus Prime, but my parents couldn't afford it. My mom couldn't afford it. My dad wasn't around all the time. It wasn't like he was a bad dad or nothing like that. It was just more or less they were divorced, and my mom didn't want him around, so he came around when he could. So a lot of times, instead of getting toys like Optimus Prime and things like that, she did get us a board game. So it was stuff like Clue, Monopoly, of course, Game of Life, Fireball Island. So sitting around playing those games, I cherish those moments, like sitting down with my brother and sister playing those games. And as I got older, my brother ended up going to the military. My sister started doing her own thing. Video games kind of took that because I didn't have my brother and sister around anymore. So I started playing video games more and more, like NES and Super Nintendo. And now that I'm older, I kind of do the video game thing with my kids, my daughter and my son. They play video games. Like both of them have Switches. I have a Switch. Each one of us have Switches, so we play stuff like Smash Brothers together. It's almost like we don't play board games as much anymore. Our board games now is kind of playing the Switch and stuff like that. And that's how we build our memories, of course.
Yeah, that's great. There's board games coming out on the Switch, so you can even incorporate those.
That would be cool. I would like to play something like see, the Monopoly games I think would be cool on Switch, but I want them to make it so you can pick your game board.
Oh, I gotcha.
Like, for example, if I wanted to, they can even do it as an add-on. Like, if I wanted to play Mass Effect Monopoly or the Walking Dead Monopoly or something like that.
Yeah.
I just buy the board in the game and have that as my game board.
That's a great idea. They should probably do that.
And apparently all the license to these games, I don't know why they don't do that, but
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool thing to do.
Huh. That's cool.
That's really interesting. And I find it fascinating, like when I think about hearing you talk about your experience growing up with board games versus my experience growing up with board games, because I grew up in the suburbs, but I was for my suburb, we were a lower middle class family. And when I say that, what I mean is that my dad was the only one who worked. My mom stayed home and took care of the kids. But we were like, when I was pretty young, my dad had a heart attack at a very young age. And like, just from that and him missing work for a couple of weeks, like we had to be on, we were on food stamps, we were on assistance, like just from that situation. So for our suburb, we were definitely like the lower middle class folks who were living there. But it was interesting because I actively like pushed board games away because I already felt like I didn't fit in because of our socioeconomic status. So even though I was interested in them, I rarely wanted to play them because I so desperately wanted to fit in when I was a kid that I was like, no, I'm not going to play those things because they're called board games for a reason. That's actually part of where Board with Video Games came from, as far as the name goes, is me remembering that as a kid saying those things. But I just think it's really interesting of like, where you grew up and like what your situation was and like how you coped with that situation might have a huge impact on like what your memories are around something as simple as board gaming, like what that situation is.
Yeah, it's total escapism.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, my story isn't that much different. I would say, like, I had a brother, I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me. So, we grew up on the traditional stuff, Monopoly, Yahtzee, and then maybe the not so traditional for kids, like Rummy Cube. My parents taught us. And Mastermind, if you remember that game, cribbage, all that kind of stuff. So we would do family game nights. Like, when I was a kid, Disney had something on ABC every Sunday night. So every Sunday night was a movie night, and that's what the family would do. But on Saturday nights, we would try to do family game night, and we played like Yahtzee, or my parents splurged on this like $400 Monopoly board that has golden hotels and silver houses. But that was like way later down the line, like when we were almost teenagers to adults. But we also like grew up, like my dad worked so much we didn't see him during the week because my mom stayed at home. So he was a single provider for the family, and we kind of had that experience that like you had, Delvin, where my brother and I would just sit in our room and play board games. And my parents did a great job of not letting us know that we were basically poor, because we would ask for stuff and get it, but we would get it a year later and they would get it from like a secondhand store, and we would never realize that. So we kind of were doing the same thing. We'd sit down, we had like an Iowa tape deck, and we would just put in a cassette and we would play like Key to the Kingdom in the bedroom, or we had like a Silverhawks game that from the old TV show that they got at like the value store in the neighborhood. That's and we awesome. We would just play those games, and half the time the board games are missing pieces, and we would just make do with what we could, or we'd be seeing who could cheat the best. Like I was notorious for like sitting on cards. Up until now, if I still play like poker with my cousin, he always makes everyone check underneath my seat to make sure I'm not sitting on an ace. I'm like, I'm an adult now. I don't cheat anymore. He's like, yeah. You always say that. So that was our board game stuff. Like I didn't really get into the board games the way we are till maybe 7 years ago or so. So it's relatively new for me. And video games were always in the picture. Our neighbors had an NES, and we begged our parents for a Nintendo, and we got one a year later, and they ended up playing it more than us. It was crazy. Like I'll always remember this story where my mom woke my brother and I up at midnight on a school night because they got to the final Bowser and they wanted us to see them beat it. And
did they beat it?
They beat it. But we would leave the house with the Nintendo was on the carpet on the floor, and we would leave the house with the Nintendo on paused because you couldn't save games. And like, God forbid someone kicked the reset button with their big toe, and it happened so many times. I don't know why the NES was ever on the floor. Why? No, you can't kick it if it's above the floor. But that's just like, that's how we grew up too. Like, and it's kind of crazy to see not only where board games have come, but video games too, like where we are, and who knows where we're going to be by the end of this year, by the end of 2019. We might have 2 new consoles announced. We might have crazy new board games available.
Best time to be a gamer.
It is, absolutely. And it's because it's socially acceptable now. Like when we grew up, you were a nerd if you played board games and video games. Like now we're out here teaching people how to play games. We're out here on podcasts talking about video games. Some people make a living doing this. It's like,
shoot, it's probably the best time to be a nerd, if anything.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I would 100% agree with that. 100%.
All right. Any final thoughts on board games, growing up with board games, what they mean to us now?
I can't wait for my son, who's going to be 2 in March, to grow up with all these crazy board games that I didn't have when I grew up.
But what if he doesn't like them?
He's gonna like them. Well, I get a 50-50 shot, right? If he doesn't like board games, hopefully he'll like video games, or vice versa.
I don't know if it quite works that way. I don't think it's just like either or.
It could be both, but I'm hoping that I have a better shot, at least to have him liking one of the 2.
So, Delvin, I have to just ask the question then. You said, with your kids, you spend a lot of time playing video games together. Has the idea of playing board games just something that hasn't come up? Have they just not been interested? Why aren't there family board game nights?
They play board games together, but I hate how they play board games. Because I bought a good example of this. I bought them the Monopoly Mario, and the pieces are like all over the house. I'm like, no. And I'm like, no, I can't do this with you guys. I'll go crazy with you. They don't take care of the board and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, I can't do this with you guys.
Yeah, I understand that. I would not be able to do that.
That drives me absolutely crazy. There's pieces missing. Yeah.
So similar to that, and this is funny because it has nothing to do with kids since I don't have kids. In Charterstone, you have to put stickers in the rule book, and there's like a perfect little like outline in the rule book about like where the sticker needs to go. And I was putting them all in. I was putting all the stickers in as you're like getting the story and reading the rules. And for one of them, my wife was reading stuff, and then she put the sticker in and then gave the book back to me. And then I looked at it, and it's not like where it's supposed to be in the square. And like I sat there and I was like, this isn't a big deal. This isn't a big deal. And I'm like trying to like see if I could like nonchalantly like peel it out so I can like put it back in the right way. And I'm just like, it's not a big deal, Kyle. It's just not a big deal. And I'm like, every time I look at it, I'm just like, oh, it's not right. It's not where it's supposed to be. And then you had to put like multiple stickers over it later. So then I was like, well, crap. Like, should I try to recenter how it's going to be? But then that part's going to be sticking out and it's still not going to look right. Like, do I just put it like on top of where it is in the wrong place? Like, what do I do? And then I had to have a really long conversation with my wife about like, where should I put this sticker? And she's like, are you trying to tell me I did this wrong? And I'm like, well, no, I'm just trying to explain why it's taking me so long to put this sticker in this book.
Not trying to tell you did this wrong. It's just that you didn't do this right.
Correct. Exactly. And like, I don't know why stuff like that usually doesn't bother me, but for some reason in that game, like when I was looking at that sticker, and maybe it's because of like the 60 or 80 stickers that are in the book, it's the only one that's not in the right place.
Yeah, I have my moments like that.
Oh my gosh.
You have to do. Throw that rule book away.
I know. Start all over again. Start all over again. Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, every week we reach out to the community to get some questions about that they'd like us to discuss. And I will say, we got some really interesting questions when we said Delvin was going to be on the podcast. Some of them are on our show notes that he sees. Some of them are not. So we'll kind of see how this goes. And we're going to probably, Josh is probably going to throw a couple extra ones in. So Josh, why don't you take it away with those listener questions we got at BoardwithVG on Twitter? I'm
going to do that. We asked for questions and people did not disappoint. So while we were recording, I'll start with a question we got while we were recording. So Paul Calico, super listener, at pcalico84 on Twitter, he says, Delvin, Who is your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and what are your thoughts on possible new movies?
Favorite
There
Ninja
is
Turtle, Michelangelo.
I was going to say there's only one right answer, and it's Donatello.
I like Donatello, but I love Michelangelo. He's such a free spirit, especially if you watch the rebooted cartoon, not the one that's out now, but the one before that one.
With the regular animation, not the weird ones?
Yes, it's the regular CG animated.
Yeah.
It's really good. It is incredible. And the way they do each character, how they make them so different. And like, it's a great, watch the new, what is it? I forgot. It's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Watch the reboot Ninja Turtles series. It is awesome. Okay. By far the best version of it.
Cool.
And how I feel about a reboot?
Yeah, and possible new movies.
If they do it right, I love it. I think I didn't like the Turtles reboot that they did recently because they made them like they were on steroids or something like that. I kind of enjoyed the old school look of them from the old movies.
Yeah, that holds up, I think, still.
Yeah, it does to me.
Cool. All right, let's start. You saw this question earlier. Everyone saw this question earlier. We'll start with this question. This question is from the Raw Opinion Podcast at Raw Opinion Pod. And I mean, let's just put it out there. What's the worst thing you've seen someone do with a hot dog? Kyle, stand by the censor button.
I'm going to keep it clean because this could go a whole other route. But the worst thing to me that I've seen somebody do with a hot dog is just because it's disgusting to me. Somebody put like mayo on a hot dog, like all over the hot dog. I dislike mayo already, but I don't think mayo should be on a hot dog. It just looks weird. And like, not only that, because I've seen somebody put mayo on a hot dog by itself. Like no ketchup, just mayo. Like, oh.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had mayo on a hot dog. Like in any like some fancy like, because you know I like am willing to try eating almost anything one time.
I'm not trying that.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had. I don't think I've ever had mayo on a hot dog. It definitely has not crossed my mind. But now that it's there, I'm probably gonna try it.
Don't try it.
Don't do that, Kyle. Kyle, if you try that, I'm gonna make sure every pizza I eat from now on has pineapple on it.
Don't do that either.
Josh, what's the worst thing you've seen someone do with a hot dog?
Oh, I was going to ask you. I'll go. So earlier last year, I worked with do you know what I say when someone's a one-upper?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I worked with a one-upper. This kid, people notice me at work for how much I eat. I don't intentionally eat excessively. I just eat until I'm not hungry. So they always comment on how like skinny my frame is and how much I can eat. So it becomes a topic of discussion. So one of the kids that used to work in our building was very upset he wasn't getting the attention for how much food he eats all the time. So he challenged me to a hot dog eating contest.
I do remember the hot dog eating contest.
Which we did. But something that I thought was disgusting that he did with his hot dogs was he was simultaneously drinking chocolate milk while eating them.
Oh,
and I thought that was one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen done with hot dog eating.
Like, I just feel like that'd take up more room then.
I was telling him, you're not being smart about this.
That just doesn't sound like a good time at all. Oh.
But that's not, I don't know, it's the worst thing. It's definitely not the worst thing I've seen someone do with a hot dog, but it's the worst thing I'm going to tell you I've seen someone do with a hot dog.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it clean.
Yeah. Kyle, you're up.
So this is, okay, so this is going to probably be a really weird story, but I work in higher education, and for a lot of years when I worked in higher education, I worked in residence life and housing, which meant I was that guy who supervised the RA staff who lived in, I already had a master's degree, but I was still living on campus in the halls, like doing all that good stuff. And at the beginning of the year, never ever failed that, within the first 2 days of classes starting, we'd always have a fire drill because someone would burn something because they'd never cooked in their entire lives. Because the building I was in charge of was 500 first-year men, right? So none of them knew how to cook, or most of them didn't know how to cook, and they would try to even make a frozen pizza. Wouldn't work. They would burn it. The whole building would go into fire alarm. Whatever. So one year I was like, okay, building goes into full alarm, like clockwork the second day of school. I'm like, all right. So I, read the little fire panel and I'm like, I see where the alarm is tripped. So I go downstairs and here I expect to find like a pizza in the oven. Instead, what it was a cookie sheet full of hot dogs. Somebody put a cookie sheet full of hot dogs in the oven and put it on like 425 degrees. And I don't know how long those things have been in there, but they were barely recognizable as hot dogs anymore. So then I sit down there and I wait because I'm like, I want to know who did this because I'm going to have a conversation with them about this. And I wait and I wait. And finally someone comes downstairs and they walk into the kitchen and they see me there. And I go, how's it going? And they're like, oh, good. Like, did you leave something in the oven? Oh, no, I didn't put anything in the oven. Oh, so what brought you down here? I'm just lost. And then they turned around and walked away. Like, it was very clearly the guy who did it. Like, he was so embarrassed. But yeah, so someone, baking some hot dogs in the oven, trying to figure out how to cook them, didn't go super great for them.
You should have threw a weenie at them.
Probably would have disintegrated. Like those things were. It was like I thought it was like pieces of charcoal in there. I was like, what is going on? Somebody's cooking charcoal? It was bad. It was really bad.
Ooh, sorry for the yawn. Oh, right in the mic too. I made sure I got that right there. Next question. It's from nerdish01000011 at dspin67 on Twitter. And they ask, how many of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture have you watched?
1, Black Panther.
Hey, that's my answer too.
That's the only one I watch. I'm going to watch Black Klansman because I heard that's really good. Those are the only two I think I have any interest in whatsoever.
Kyle?
I've also only currently seen one, Black Panther, but I will probably see all of them by the time the Academy Awards roll around because I usually make sure to have at least watched all of the movies that are nominated for Best Picture because I'm a nerd like that.
That's not nothing wrong with that. I saw Black Panther. Roma, I believe, is on Netflix now.
It is.
So you can watch Roma. I want to see A Star Is Born. Actually, I'm surprised. I'm a really big fan of that song for whatever reason.
Have you seen like the one with Barbra Streisand and stuff?
Back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't have very fond memories of it.
I remember watching it with my mom.
My wife just watched that Lady Gaga documentary on Netflix.
So did my wife.
And she really liked it. So it'll probably be like a Valentine's Day or date night movie we'll watch. Black Klansman, I really want to see. Bohemian Rhapsody, I really want to see.
I forgot that was nominated. I want to see that one.
And then Vice, I only really want to see that to see how awesome Christian Bale is as an actor, but I don't have any real want to relive the Dick Cheney years. So I don't know that I'll watch it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Exact same sentiment.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the Haunted Ride at Haunted Ride came in guns blazing with probably 20 questions. I'm not going to read them all. We'll hit a few, and then maybe I'll tweet at you, Delvin, the ones we don't hit, and you can still answer their questions. And actually, we covered the first one was that we covered in the episode. So Delvin, what was your first gaming console?
ColecoVision. It's the first one I played. That's the first one I played, and the first game I played on it was the Smurfs.
Nice. Kyle, what about you?
First gaming console, NES.
NES?
Yep.
Do you remember your first game?
It was the one that came with the Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt Pack-In.
Nice. Mine was the Atari 2600, and the first game I can remember playing was Pac-Man, but I have fond memories of Pitfall also, and I have not fond memories of E.T. But I did have it. All right, Delvin, did you ever play Pokemon on Game Boy?
Yes, I did. It's trying to think. I had Blue.
Blue.
Yes.
Cool. Kyle.
The only Pokemon game I've ever played is Pokemon Go.
Okay, interesting.
I never it just is a series that I have just missed. I thought about getting Let's Go Eevee because Eevee seems way cuter than Pikachu, but
I have Let's Go Pikachu.
Let's Go Eevee here.
I play.
I missed the Pokemon bandwagon. I think I aged over it just briefly. Like when it came out, I was not watching. I feel like I was watching older cartoons, or I just totally missed it. I'm not sure. Older cartoons is necessarily a great, like cartoons are cartoons, man. But I didn't play any on the Game Boy. I did try some on the 3DS, but I just couldn't get into them. But I did have, and I'm having fun playing Let's Go Eevee with my wife because you can play that co-op, which I like.
Yes.
Did you ever cheat in a board game or video game?
Not a board game. I can tell you that for a fact. What do we qualify as cheating in a video game?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
The first thing I thought of was Game Shark.
Yes, I've used Game
Or
Shark.
Game Genie.
I've used both of those things plenty of times. So if you ask me that question, yes. If we talk about multiplayer and stuff like that, no. I have time for that. I'm not doing that whole, you got to get the high score. Let me rubber band. No, I don't care. But with Game Shark and Game Genie to beat games, I used to use those things all the time.
You had to. You couldn't beat NES games without those things.
Yes, they were literally impossible. A lot of games were actually broken on NES. So you needed like a Game Genie or something like that to beat it.
Okay, Kyle, what say you?
I don't
Are
ever
you guilty?
I don't ever distinctly remember cheating in a board game. That doesn't mean that like when I was a kid I didn't, but I don't ever remember doing it. Now, we have had that conversation though of if you misplay rules, are you cheating?
No, you're not cheating if you miss.
So, because that I have definitely done where I'm like, I thought this worked a different way and I'm just not doing it correctly, because that I've definitely done.
Oh, so let me ask that then, because this is something that comes up. Like games like Monopoly, people kind of have their own rules with it. Does that count?
No, you can house rules are fine. So like we did like you always put a certain amount of money in free parking. It was like one of each bill except for the 500 we'd put in the middle of the table.
Because how we did free parking was anytime somebody would go to jail or something like that or have to pay a fine, that money would go into the free parking.
Yeah, we did that too. Yeah, I think that's normal.
Yeah, I think house rules are like, as long as everyone has a common understanding of how things are supposed to work, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Video games, the only way I guess that you could ever say that I really like quote unquote cheated in video games, I played a lot of Call of Duty back in the day, a ton of Call of Duty, especially from like 3, and then like especially once Modern Warfare hit on, like that was like what I did every night. And I think it was World at War that there was one of the maps that for a while it was glitched that you could fall underneath. There was a way you could do it on purpose. I never did that. But there were times that I just ended up underneath the map. I would kill the other people because what else am I going to do? Like I'm down there. I didn't do it on purpose. It's either quit the game that all of my friends are that I'm playing in, or I just kill everybody. I could just not participate, I suppose. But what fun would that be?
That's true. I Game Genied the crap out of my NES games at some point in my life. There was just a time where I couldn't live without it. But other than that, I never cheated in video games. However, I had a friend who we would play Killer Instinct on the SNES all the time. And he would, quote, accidentally pause the game every time someone was doing an ultra combo. It was the most frustrating. I'm not friends with him anymore. And that's probably why.
I was going to say something, but this is a clean podcast. Because he's a garbage person.
Yes, he is a garbage person. And you know what? That probably set the stage for the rest of his life. That's probably why he is where he is.
Yeah, but you can't pause real life, unfortunately.
You cannot. And yeah, I cheated all the time in board games. I don't anymore, though. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through because there's a lot of questions in here.
Oh, that's awesome.
What is some advice you would give a young family with children who want to game?
Have fun and enjoy. Like, take that time to enjoy the moment, because before you know it, those kids are going to be grown and they're going to have their own interests and tastes. And a lot of times those interests and tastes are not going to align with yours.
Yep, for sure. Kyle.
As you know, I'm reticent to give advice to people with kids about kids since I don't have kids. So I'm going to say awesome that you want to spend time with your family. Nice work. And I'm going to turn it over to you since you have kids.
So this is what I'll say. This is regardless of, I think this applies to anyone, whether you have kids or not, family in general, find something that everyone can play. I have my own games I'm passionate about, but if you're trying to get a young family with children who want a game, I'm not going to try to push Wingspan on a family of people. You need to find common balance, and you need to be patient because there could be a lot of trial and error with that. So just because you try one game you think everyone's going to like and they're not interested, don't give up. Find another game. Go to the game store with your kids. Let them pick a game. Or, as I say, punch down a little bit. Maybe play a game you think is too childish for you and let them have fun, and you do your best to accommodate them. Like, that's something a lot of people, like a lot of adults that I've grown up with or seen, they don't want to play kids games, quote, because it's, too childish or, whatever their excuse is. I played Catch the Fox on Christmas with like my 5-year-old little cousin. It's not a great game, but he had a blast. And, he had to win every time and he'd take everything away from everyone, but he had a fun time. And then we had a fun time doing that. And that's fostering like him to become a board gamer as he grows up. Like, he'll enjoy playing games with the family more. So I would say find the game that worked for your kids, not necessarily what works for you. Compromise. And we'll end it, the question portion, with this question. Have you or any of your family members ever met people who immediately gave you red flags while playing online, and how did you handle it?
Okay, I got a story. I've had a couple of internet stalkers.
Oh.
Over Twitter, like where I've had situations where people would just message me, "Hi, how you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, hi, how you doing?" And then the conversation would like turn left real quick, and they would start asking me all kind of crazy questions and showing me pictures of weird people. Like one in particular, like was sending me pictures of people, asking me, "Do I know this person?" and saying we should hang out. And like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I can't rock with you. I ended up having to block him because it was super weird. And it got to the point where it got like uncomfortable and creepy. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta avoid those situations for sure.
It has happened like at least 3 times. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm not.
They just want to hang out.
I'm not Will Smith. Like,
okay, not Will Smith. Kyle, what do you say?
Okay, can you read the question one more time?
No.
Okay.
I only because I closed my phone.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, like the thing I went to right away is like playing video games, like and this doesn't happen anymore because very rarely are people in voice chat anymore in multiplayer games, at least for me. I very rarely run into people who are running their mouth in multiplayer games anymore. When I do run into those people, if people are saying things that are inappropriate or that I feel like probably shouldn't be said, I have no problems taking them to task right there and right then. I have called out many people in online gaming, like whether it be in Call of Duty or in Overwatch or whatever I'm playing, especially if I'm alone, but even if I'm with my friends, I will take people to task, and I take my friends to task when they say things that I don't like. So I had, as an example, not putting names out there, recently in Overwatch, like they announced that they came out with a comic that it talked about how Soldier 76 was gay, and one of my people that I play Overwatch with regularly said something about like, "Oh, did you see this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I saw that." And he's like, "Well, why do they have to be making everyone gay now?" And I was like, dude, how many characters are there in Overwatch? He's like, well, like 30. I'm like, so this is 2. There's 2. Yeah. I mean, 2 and 30, like 2 does not make everyone, not even close. And so we ended up having a conversation about it, but like, I don't go along with just whatever people say. And I very much believe in the idea that silence is acceptance. So I'm going to call people out if they say things that I think are misinformed or misunderstood. And that doesn't mean that I'm always right or that I don't say stupid stuff sometimes. I definitely do. but I hope people call me out when I do that. Like, we had the one episode where I said something really bad at the beginning of the episode, and you were like, hey, I don't think that's okay. And I looked it up and I was like, it wasn't. I shouldn't have said that. And I didn't edit it out because I don't want people to think that like everything is always perfect. Like, we're going to make mistakes, but when you make mistakes, recognize that you did, apologize for it, and rectify the situation and make better choices in the future. So
yeah,
that is an awesome answer.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm the one who's here to make mistakes, not you. That's why it was a flustery moment. For me, I mean, to answer the question, I almost exclusively would encounter people that were rude and uncomfortable online, and every console I have has everyone on mute automatically. So unless we're friends, like on PlayStation Network or Xbox, you're on mute. I'm sick of being in Destiny groups where people are disrespectful and rude. I'm sick of playing Call of Duty where children to adults scream obscenities just because they can, because they have the platform to do so. And while I 100% think you engaging in them is awesome, I get so stressed out about stuff like that. My overacting empathy really affects me in almost everything I do in my day-to-day life. So I have a real hard time tolerating it. So I just have to shut it down. And if I can't hear them say it, they're not saying it. It's a passive way to take it, but I would never play a game online if I was trying to address everything that I hear. Obviously, if I hear someone say something and I think it's disrespectful or ignorant, and it's with a group of people I know, like if it's a friend, I will for sure say something. But if it's people that I don't know, I would just delete them out of my life and I won't play with them anymore, or I'll block them. Like, same difference, really.
All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for the questions. We definitely appreciated. As we draw the podcast to a close, we want to go ahead and give you a recommendation for a well-rounded life. While we're clearly a gaming podcast, we want to just kind of throw out a recommendation, a suggestion, something that we're into right now that's helping us live that well-rounded life. Delvin, as our guest, is there something you'd like to recommend to the listeners?
Star Trek Discovery.
Oh,
I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I love this show. It is so good. I bought the first season on Blu-ray because I wasn't paying CBS All Access. There's nothing I want to watch on CBS whatsoever. So
well, I mean, there clearly is.
It's just that one show. I was like, I'm not paying to watch this one show on CBS and Hawaii Five-0 reruns. So I waited till it got on like Blu-ray for the season one, and I bought it. And it's amazing. It looks like a movie. It's so well done. The characters are enthralling. It's almost like how the new movies are. It looks like the new movies, but it's set in the old TV show time. And it has such a good blend of it's well acted. And it asks questions that you don't really see in TV shows anymore in terms of like sci-fi shows where it's not just action. It's giving you kind of like a different side of things. It's very good.
Okay. So are you then, do you like the newer set of movies that have been out recently?
I thought they were fine.
Okay. So are you not super sad that they're not making any more, it looks like?
I'm not super sad. I thought they were good, but it's just, you got 3. Like, how much further can they really go? Like, at some point, a series has to stop. And I think 3's a good number.
I would agree there. All right, Josh, do you have recommendations, sir?
Yeah, I don't remember if I brought it up last week. I was hinting around it, but I started rewatching Psych on Amazon Video.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
Remember when I said at the beginning of the podcast, when I said I had something that I was excited about?
Yeah.
This is the thing right here.
I love it.
I love Psych. My son loves Psych.
You know what? It's funny you say that because like I'm rewatching it now, and I watched the whole series when it was first out. I didn't see the movie when they released it like last year or 2 years ago, which is why I'm rewatching it so I can watch the movie. But as I'm watching this, I'm thinking like this is a show I could have my son watch at a relatively young age because every episode, the main character, Sean, is like learning lessons from his dad from when he was a kid. So there's a lot to teach in this as well. Obviously, it's made as like a, comedic entertainment like show, but like there's a lot of life lessons. And I can't tell you how much fun I have watching him come up with new nicknames for Gus when they go places, or they have such great chemistry together. I just genuinely have such a fun time watching it.
Yes.
And even though like I vaguely remember each episode, it still like feels so new to me when I'm watching it. I stay up way too late every night laughing my butt off watching it.
It's the perfect pop culture show for people who grew up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It definitely scratches that itch.
So I'm gonna probably have to watch this show, is what you're saying.
You should watch Psych.
It's incredible.
So good.
If you like it, if you like detective shows that don't take themselves seriously,
Yes.
it's great. Like, if you like shows like Monk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's
You'll
just
love
like
Psych.
Monk. Yeah.
Man.
I'll put it this way. I liked Psych so much when I found out it was ending, I didn't watch a bunch of episodes of it. So after it was over, I could go back and watch those episodes and enjoy them.
How many seasons of Psych are there?
Oof.
I say 8.
I'll find out for you.
Oh Jesus.
I'll find out while you talk about your thing, because what you're going to talk about is one of my favorite things on Netflix.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So the thing I'm going to talk about that I'm going to recommend is a docuseries that I think we maybe have talked about it, but I don't think we ever recommended it, because if we talked about it, I think it was prior to this segment existing on our show. That is a docuseries called Ugly Delicious on Netflix. And in it, Chef David Chang goes, and every episode is about a specific type of food for the most part. So like the first episode's about pizza, and he talks about like what makes good pizza, but it's not just about what makes good pizza in the United States. He kind of travels all over the world, talks about the history of it, talks a lot about how like immigration and things like that have affected and impacted the way we think about the food that we eat. So it's a really interesting look and take on just our food and the food that we take for granted, because it's like pizza and tacos and barbecue and like bigger staples of the American diet that we have today. So it's really interesting. And he comes to he talks about how like the best pizza in the world right now is in Japan. And he's like, if I tell that to people are going to, flip out about it. He's like, but I genuinely believe that the best pizza in the world right now is in Japan.
He also loves Domino's.
And he likes Domino's, right? And he talks a little bit about how, the world of food and like foodie culture and like where food is right now, like pushes everything to like such a high level that like only beautiful things can be good, and he talks about how like Ugly Delicious is like the food that your mom made. Like it is delicious food that is not presented the way you're going to see it in a restaurant, but it is the stuff that like warms your soul. And that his goal is that when you eat food, especially at like a really nice restaurant, it should like spark that memory for you, like in the movie Ratatouille, about like, it might not be the exact food, but you have that feeling of like going home, or it sparks a memory for you. But it's just a really cool look at food. And like the taco episode, they like even go to like Taco Bell. I mean, they talk about like why Taco Bell tacos are the way they are. I mean, it's a really, really cool docuseries. Luckily, there's going to be a second season of it. I don't know when that's coming out yet, but they have announced there is a second season. And there's some of the episodes aren't perfect. There's some things that he definitely, he might say some things that's going to rub people the wrong way. He definitely, especially the barbecue episode, I think there's maybe some, maybe doesn't get as many voices in that episode as he should have, and he has admitted to that and says that, yeah, he would probably do that differently if doing it again. But really excellent series, especially if you like food, it's really good. But even if you're not super into food, but like documentaries, Ugly Delicious, I think is absolutely brilliant. And
you learn a lot about the history of food, like the chicken and waffles thing.
Yeah.
It was incredible and terrible all at the same time.
Correct.
There's 8 seasons of Psych, by the way.
Okay, 8 seasons of Psych.
But you can just watch 2 episodes and you'll know if you like it. And then you don't have to worry about 8 seasons if you don't like it.
I know, but I'm doing that, how I recommended a couple of weeks ago, that whole Game of Thrones rewatch thing. I'm in the midst of that.
Yeah, but you've seen Game of Thrones.
I know, but there's a lot of episodes still to go before April 14th or whatever day that is coming out. So, All right. Well, with that, hey, Delvin, we really, really appreciate you joining us on the podcast this week. Where can the people keep up with you and all of the wonderful things you do?
I'm on Twitter at Delvin_Cox. Check me out there for sure. Also, check out the Delvin Cox Experience. It's a great podcast. It's on iTunes, anywhere where you basically get your podcast at. And final important message, which is more important than anything else, is support your indie podcasters. Support PSVG. Support the podcast that you like, because if it's not for you guys there supporting us, we wouldn't be around. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
That is an excellent sentiment to roll us out with. Josh, what do you say we wrap this thing up?
Of course. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and Delvin especially. Remember, you can find us on social media at BoardwithVG and use that hashtag BoardwithVG, that is now only associated with one weird hot dog tweet. Facebook.com/BoardwithVG, and of course, BoardwithVG@gmail.com. We know we have some fan fiction on the way. You can find me on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network at Why So Serious. That's SIRRIUS. And I'm on Instagram at baloney_Borboni. Kyle.
Awesome. You can find me on all the usual places: Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. Remember, Saturday, January 26th from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m., we are doing that game night with the Xbox Empire podcast, playing some Halo 5, again, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Find us over on Xbox doing that. If you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social medias, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. And finally, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.